Okay, so thank you for joining us for our Healing Place podcast. We have a very special guest on today. I wanted us to talk about suicide. The rate of suicide has really been going up, and I feel as though a lot of people don't have a safe place that they feel they can go to before it gets to the place of feeling as though they have no other choice but to take their lives. But today we're going to be able to go on the inside of suicide, the thoughts and the mind frame of those who have those thoughts and have lived through it after attempting the act. And so our guest today, Tanya is very special to me. She is my friend who I love dearly. And she's going to be transparent with us today and tell us about her experience with suicide. And Tanya, so if you can just give us a little bit of background information about yourself concerning the mental illness that you deal with and what led you and what the thoughts and things that you had when you got to the point of wanting to end your life.
Mm, I got diagnosed with depression probably around 10 or 11 years ago. I've always sort of struggled. Um, I seen a doctor about 10 or 11 years ago where I got put on medicine, and my life had ran pretty smooth in order. Um, I would say probably 20 years ago, I sort of had I was in a real bad place in life, and I come out of it with a lot of, um, things that were making my life choices and stuff that were making me in a bad place. And then this past year, I started dealing with my mother's death, some things going on, personal issues going on within, you know, my home and children, just trying to have a, have a, I don't really know how to explain it.
Like a normal
Um,
life, but it seemed like it was spiraling out of control.
I, yeah, and I just sort of spiraled out of control. And with when you don't have insurance, you can't get the help you need.
Mhm.
I had been told I needed to see a psychiatric or a trauma therapist, a specialist, but I had no insurance and I couldn't keep paying out of pocket. I was already paying a general practitioner for to see them every 3 months to get the medicine that I was thinking they had committed me into a psych ward, which with the rate of COVID, they could care less if I stayed there or not. But I was only required to stay there 48 hours if anybody commits you.
Hmm.
Um, but the whole 24 hours I was there, I didn't receive any help. It was like you were thrown in a room
Oh
with
wow.
the door shut.
Oh wow. So they didn't offer you any therapy there?
There was a mental health worker that come in and sort of asked why I was there and stuff like that, and they were like, they told me that I was in the emergency part of the mental health, that they had no beds, and when they got to me, they would decide whether I went upstairs and got a bed and where I could join in meetings and stuff, or whether I would be sent to a facility out of Guilford County, like Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in a dark place like that, it's hard to sit still. They're not they put me in there. They finally did give me a shot of Ativan for my anxiety because I'm having panic attacks. But other than that, I didn't have none of the medicines I was on. I was just sort of shut in a room.
Mm.
And then so after I came out, I'd seen my doctor quite a bit from March of last year up until I tried to take my life, and they kept just switching me on and off of different medicines. And it was not low dose medicine, it was high dose medicine. And I started to think I was maybe over medicated. It was like I could not get up and go. And I've always been a get up and go person.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I was just stuck. And now, even though I've been totally medicine free for probably 30, 35 days, I think back and it was like such a blur. My mind was in a fog.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Do
And
you
then
was
it was
it in a fall because you were in a low place, or do you feel like it was in a fall because of the medicine?
I was over medicated and I was in a low place, and I had went to the doctor so many times since last March, trying to get straightened out and could not get straight. I I was tired. I was just tired. I was tired of my brain racing. I was tired of not sleeping. I was tired.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
So
couldn't.
take
I
us
couldn't.
to Yeah. So take us to the day that you had finally felt like, or take us to the days leading up to the day you said, okay, this is the day I'm gonna end it.
It wasn't ever like I'm going to end it. It was like I was doing things like eating tons of pills that would end it.
Mm,
Like I had a prescription of 90 Xanax, and they would be gone within 3 days, 4 days. And finally, one morning, my husband woke up and found me in the kitchen floor. And he said he thought it was the pill. He didn't. He leaned over me and was like, "What are you doing?" Well, when I got up, my foot broke.
mm,
Well, when I got to the hospital, they wanted to admit me because my CK levels was 1800 and they're only supposed to be 100. It's where I had laid there for approximately about 5 hours, and your CK starts shooting off in your blood
mhm,
to in your bloodstream to try to survive you. Like if he wouldn't have
mhm.
found me, I probably would be alive.
Yeah.
Um, but I told it I was just I didn't know what was going on.
Mhm,
I just first they thought it was stroke. Um, I was having I did have 3 seizures during this time from stress, the medicine, uh, and everything else that was going on. So I just everybody as they gave me the as they discovered there was some seizures going on, they just I just made let everybody think that it took me getting off of all the medicine and really coming to my senses to be like I had tried to commit suicide
mhm.
because still wasn't adding up. And I just finally was like, I tried to commit suicide. And at the time, I couldn't get it out. I thought everybody I felt like I talked to was like, you'll be okay. Snap out of it. You need to get yourself together. It's
Mhm.
not that easy.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's important because me, I talked to you and I feel like I was probably one of those people who said, Tanya, you're gonna get better, it's gonna get better. And when after you told me, I know I said, well, why you didn't call me? And it was something that you said that was very profound to me. And it didn't matter what you said at that time. So can you tell us about that? Because I think a lot of times people don't understand that from the outside, your loved ones, because
Yeah.
I
When people say that I'm going to commit suicide, get them help. But I didn't tell anybody. It was in my brain that I just wanted it to be over. But I also had in my brain, I love my grandkids. I love my kids, and I didn't want anybody thinking I was selfish. But I needed a peace of mind. I could not. I had struggled since March, from March to December, and I could not handle it anymore. I just wanted a peace of mind, and I didn't tell anybody. It's
yeah,
not something that I yelled out. I'm going to commit suicide.
mhm,
It was just I don't know. I couldn't get it out anymore. I couldn't even fight for the help anymore. I didn't. I was over trying to get help because nothing was working.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
obviously wasn't. I didn't have the help I needed because of insurance reasons.
mhm,
So I
mhm,
couldn't get to the help that possibly would have helped me. And a general practitioner was what was helping me.
yeah, and a lot of mistakes that general practitioners make is that they try to step into the on in the line of a psychiatrist, and it's not fair to the patient because your patient might come in and present symptoms of depression, but it's not their job to actually prescribe those type of
My
things.
tried to. She never tried to. Some of them, I just don't think that they realize that they're probably dealing with somebody that does need a psychiatrist. So they just keep jerking the medicine on and off. And everything I was on, I have now been diagnosed with bipolar 2, and everything I was on was what I should not have been on. So it
Mm,
had made me even spiral more out of control.
yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of the problem with our mental health system is that they don't have the resources that are really needed for people who really need the help but don't have the insurance that
I
is
had
needed.
called mental health. I had called mental health. Their appointments were so far down, like a month or two down.
Hmm.
I had called Daymark in Winston. They said I needed to stand outside. Remind you, I'm in a depression. I can barely get out of bed. I
Yeah.
can barely go.
Hmm.
I'm going the least amount as I can and coming back home eating pills and sleeping just to shut my brain down because my brain is racing so hard.
Hmm.
And it's the only way I could find peace.
Yeah.
So when they tell me to come outside somewhere and stand at 7 a.m. in the morning and first come, first serve basis, stuff like that's impossible when you're where I was at.
Hmm. Yeah.
And now I have a new mental health hospital in Greensboro that's open 24/7. And they said that, you know, um, evaluation takes like, but I have not. That is where I've been instructed to go as of right now,
Mhm.
um, for the help I need. But I
Yeah.
have not went there. I've been I'm totally off medicine, and as of right now, I feel like I'm not suicidal. I do feel okay. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
Yeah.
I was really closed down and out of the loop when I was like that.
Yeah, and I I think a signal and what we have been trained as clinicians is that most people who say that they're going to commit suicide normally are not the ones who's going to. That's just their cry for help.
That's why everybody says, "Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call me?"
Hmm.
Um, it's not. It even took me getting all the medicine I shouldn't be on out of my system to be able to just admit that's what had happened.
Hmm.
Because I still wasn't saying anything about. I knew what I did, but I wasn't telling anybody.
Right, right. Do you feel sometimes that you have a space where you can actually be honest and say, "Hey, this is what I really, really feel," or do you feel like you have to sugarcoat a lot of the things that you say to people?
Yeah, you have to sugarcoat it because people look at you like you're selfish. Like, why would you do that when you have children and grandkids that love you? But I don't think they understand what's really going on inside of your head, that you're just trying to find a peace of mind because you're fighting a battle within yourself.
Mhm, mhm.
Like, I love my kids and grandkids more than anything. But when you're fighting that battle, it's like you can't even find peace to enjoy them at the time.
Mhm. It's almost like I can as I'm sitting here listening to you talk, it's almost like someone who has a terminal illness, and they get to the point where they
Hmm.
say, "Wait, look, I don't want any more treatment. I can't deal with the pain. I'm just ready." And people,
That's it.
will go to them and say,
But I
"There's."
was not telling nobody I was ready. I I just had shut the world out. Very few people called me and I would answer and talk to them.
Mhm.
I'd shut down to the world.
Yeah, yeah,
Besides going to work and doing what I had to and getting right back home, I was not grocery shopping. I couldn't. I was done. I
yeah.
couldn't even barely make it to a store to get groceries.
Mhm. Yeah. And for someone that shuts down like that, now let me ask you a question because I think a lot of people want to know this. So even with you shutting down and not answering the phone, if someone had showed up at the door and said, "Hey, I'm here because I'm concerned," how would you have handled that?
Same way I did my phone when people were like, "I'm worried about you," I didn't answer it because in my mind, I had so many people say, "You're gonna be okay," or you've got to put this in the back of your head. You've got to, it's like a bunch of tough love, people not understanding it, thinking I could just throw it in the back of my head and get back up, and I couldn't.
Mhm.
And people didn't know the daily struggle I was fighting. And I was just so tired of people just thinking they could drag me by my arm and I'd stand back up and be okay again.
Yeah, yeah,
And people text me all the time, "I'm worried, are you okay?" and stuff like that. And a lot of times I'd just be like, that people don't care, they're nosy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I nobody really ever showed up at my front door, but there was some phone calls. I'd be like, people don't care. And to this day, right now, the few people who would call and say that, right now that I'm in a whole different place, have not checked on me.
Mhm.
So the whole reason I felt like they don't care, they're just nosy.
They're still not being there.
Mm-mm.
Mm, yeah, yeah. And the state of the world that we're in right now, I'm finding that more and more that people either they don't know how to care, they don't know what it is to have compassion or empathy or sympathy for other people. A lot of times, what we're dealing with, I believe, in this season and in this day, are a lot of self-centered people, very, very self-centered, and because everything is about them and revolves around them, if they don't feel as though they can actually be the superstar in your life, then why do it? Or um why have concern for it, if that makes sense.
That that's that's sort of how I feel too. That's why, like a lot of people, I've been told that there a lot of people. I mean, my own sister tells me that I think everybody's out to get me. I don't think anyone's out to get me, which it is sort of like a bipolar thing that you do withdraw from people.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think people's out to get me. I just don't think people generally care. I don't think people have compassion. I think there's many people who have compassion or generally care as much as they are being nosy or I don't know. And that's why I withdraw from people.
Yeah.
Which when I did see a medical expert here recently, they did say that it is a flag to be antisocial like I am and to withdraw, but
Yeah.
I still feel not on medicine and not in that suicidal place that I am leery of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you've not been shown anything different, what else kind of emotions can you have? This is
Right.
all that I see. So I believe that you have, because that's all you feel like you have seen, I believe that your feelings are very valid.
I feel like I know who's genuine and who's not.
Yeah.
Like intuition is very good with people. It always has been. That is one thing I'm not lacking is intuition, and I feel like I know who's genuine and who's not.
Yeah. Now let me ask you a question. So for what does help look like for you?
Help.
Mhm. What does it look like for somebody to be able to come into your world and be able to be present and walk with you? And you can feel that they're very genuine about what they're doing.
Um, like they're there to hear you. They're there to hear you. They don't think that you can just snap out of it. They know it's a process. Like they know that it's something mental. It's not just something like they're there to hear you out. They're there to help you. They're there even if you was to call them and they were too busy, they always find a place to call you back, or you always find a place to call them back.
Mhm.
Um, so many people say they're there and they're compassionate. You can call them for days and never hear from them. Then if you're suicidal, you'll be dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you, Brianna. You've really checked on me. You've really made sure I was okay.
Well, thank you. Well, I love you.
Yeah, you really have. With even like with work or it's like you've reached out to try to get me sources for help and stuff like that. um that's what I feel like I don't feel like everything in this world is tough love, just shake it off, get back up, put it in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Everybody's mind is not built like that
Mm-mm.
to go on.
Yeah, and I think it's unfair because some people are mentally at a place where they can do that. But that's them. That's how they're built. I can't go and say somebody else can do the same thing I can do and think that I'm like they're robots. It's not fair. So for people to think that and to say, well, that's crazy, they should be able to bounce back, it makes no sense to me. because we're people. We're all different.
A lot of people don't understand that they walk different lives than other people in life, and what that
Mhm,
somebody can't cram but so much down in there before they
mhm.
can't take no more.
Right, because
Like,
we don't know what's already on the inside of a person.
right.
And
And I
because
and
if
I
you haven't unpacked, then how much more can you get in there?
right. Everybody's lived a to hear them tell it. Everybody's had a rough life. But I was one up until this, you never knew that I what had went on in my life.
Mm,
I didn't want to pick. I didn't know at the age of 42 I'd have a mental crisis or mental breakdown or couldn't
mhm,
couldn't life anymore. I didn't know that, but I
yeah,
had crammed so much throughout my whole life, pretty
mhm,
much
mhm.
a little bit after I was born.
Right, right. And
But
and
you never knew this about me. Everybody just thought I was a strong individual
mhm,
until I finally start breaking down in 2021. I can't cram nothing else in there. And I think my mother's death and me not or questioning or getting answers to some of the stuff that went on between, with my mother made a lot of it surface.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it well, I know your history, so I know why it would. I know why it would. But again, like you said, because people don't know the history. And now you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of times what happens with people is that I call it journey, being able to journey with people, or being able to sit in the dirt and in the mud and in the ugly with people. And so because when we get into relationships with people, friendships, or whatever it is, and we don't take the time to actually get to know the person. So I know of you, but I don't really know you. I want to know. I, it's important to know why a person acts the way they do, why they think the way they do, because I can be a better friend to someone that I know where this is why they think like this, or this is why they feel like this. And even sometimes when it's something that is ugly, because a lot of us have ugly past, but if you can sit with me in the ugliness of my past to understand that I am who I am today, because either I have not dealt with my past, I'm still holding on to it, or whatever it may be, then you can understand how I function and why I function the way that I function. And so if you can journey with me and be still in a relationship with me, those are the best people. But because so many people, whether we want to admit it or not, a lot of people, Tanya, haven't even dealt with their own stuff. And so to have to try to deal with somebody else's, it sparks up emotions on the inside of them that they don't want to deal with. And so they try to throw off on the individual.
Right. I agree with that. Because I have found it myself hard to deal with other people that has not dealt with stuff deep down inside of them, especially uh, if they've turned like narco, narcissists and stuff
Mhm,
because of stuff they haven't dealt with. I have seen people like that that have not dealt with but have turned not to be such good people
people.
in life.
Mhm,
And like, oh no, run as fast as you can to get away from.
yeah,
But there's also a lot of people I feel like that cannot look at somebody and say they act like that or something's went on in their life that they are who they are.
mhm,
Like a lot of people, they just judge you or don't agree with you or
mhm,
they're not able to or they're too selfish to see this person is you have a lot of times I look at my kids and be like, you can't say that about them. You don't know what they went through
mhm,
or
mhm.
what they have faced. You don't know, what's going on in their life, who they are.
That's
Because that's
right.
another thing. I try to understand what's going on within somebody. I just don't push them to the side.
Mhm. Yeah, because it's hurtful for somebody to discard. To If you've ever been discarded, you know the pain that it feels, that comes from being discarded or being
Biggest is why I am like I am with people is because I've been abandoned since a young age. And
mhm,
so, when people say, Even like my own sister, she tells me, "You think everybody's out to get you. It's not that. It's the fear of abandonment,
Mhm.
and that I've been done so wrong that I don't get close to people, and I am weary of people."
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and then that is a coping mechanism that you have come up with. That's how you can I've heard people say, "That's how I keep myself safe."
Hmm.
Keep myself safe
And I'm a
that way.
loner, I'm okay.
Mhm.
Loner, there is certain life like what I've just want experience that I don't. I do need people that I can trust around or close to make sure I'm not back in that position in life. But like I said, I do have a very good intuition through what I've been through in life, and I know who's genuine and who's not.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I've been suicidal and I can't reach out to you or touch contact you for a week because you don't answer. I just don't feel like that's genuine to me.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Or that you was never there to begin with. You say I'm the here, call me, but then if you experience and you call and you can't get them, I
Mhm.
I just feel more of a nosy.
Yeah.
Like they want to know just enough what's going on to be nosy, but they're not really there to help.
Yeah. Now let's talk about that. So let's sit in that. So when you feel that when people do that to you and you know you're already dealing with abandonment issues or rejection issues and somebody does that, what kind of emotions do you feel during that time?
I cut people off. At my age now, I just will cut you off.
Mhm.
At my age now, I'm just done. They'll come back and say, "Golly, I hadn't talked to you in so long. What's up?" I don't
Yeah.
have no use because I feel like people are too self-centered and only thinking about really their self at the time, and that they only come around enough to be nosy.
Mhm. Mhm. And I want us to talk because I'm sure you've heard the former Miss USA. I might be pronouncing her name wrong. Is it Chesley? Chesley.
Sure.
But I don't know if you've heard on the news where she just committed suicide. She just threw herself, um, I believe, out of a window, or she threw herself from some type of it might have been a window or building, but from looking from the outside, it looked like she had everything together. She was beautiful. She had just gotten well, she was a correspondent with E. Um, she won this pageant and she had, I want to say, a nonprofit, but from the outside, it looked like she had everything that somebody would want for their life. And everybody is questioning and saying, what was it that led her to do this? And as I was looking and as I continued to listen and kind of just listen to the Holy Spirit speak to me, I believe that sometimes, and this might not be her story, but I believe that sometimes people are held at a high standard and they're not allowed to be imperfect.
Well, I feel like that. Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like I had been such a strong person so long in life that I had no choice, and then to be strong, and then especially raising my children getting grown. Um, and then everybody thinks you make it look so perfect, but deep down you've struggled semi the whole time.
Hmm.
Like time everybody thought my life was so perfect, I was struggling somewhat. Not to where I got, but I've always struggled.
Hmm.
But I was such a person, and I never wanted a pity party and never talked about really what had went on in my life.
Hmm.
It it threw people for a loop. Like people was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah,
The whole time I had struggled all my life, but I had been so strong for so long, people really didn't know to the extent of what I did struggle.
yeah, yeah.
But put a place on the outside.
Hmm. And now I have personally, I have something you said. You didn't want to tell anybody because you weren't looking for a pity party. Now I personally have struggled with that. I don't want to tell people certain things because it's not that I'm looking for a pity party. What I'm looking for is just for someone to hear me. I just need you to hear me so I can get it off my chest and let you and tell somebody, hey, you know what? It ain't what people think it is. I'm struggling. I'm not necessarily looking for you to give me help. I'm just looking for you to say, girl, I understand. I love you. Um, and just to actually say that I'm here with you. I hear you because I don't always need you to give me a hand up or to give me help. I just need your ear. Can I get your ear without a without judgment?
And up until the last year, 2 years, nobody. I worked a job for 6 years, and when my mom died, they thought my mom was homeless. Like, I just didn't sit around and discuss really what had went on in my childhood or how it got like it was with where people didn't even know the relationship I had. I never, I didn't mention it. I didn't talk about it because I felt like people would just think I needed a pit, like, oh, I had such a pitiful life. But then I'd always been grown up to think, well, I'd been taught growing up, like, you don't grow up doing that. You grow up and say, this isn't the life I want my kids to have.
Mhm.
So I didn't really ever talk about it. I
Yeah.
didn't ever bring it up.
Mhm. Do you feel like if you had someone that you could talk to about it, do you feel like that could have helped you before you got to
Yeah,
this?
but once it, another thing, I had tried to see therapists through the years, and after a month or two, I would just walk out because I felt like it would be just a staring blank at me, asking me questions that were wrote down, like, and blank. It was never a connection that I really even got deep down enough to talk about it.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah,
some things you don't tell people because you don't want them talking to the next person about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Once again, abandonment and my trust issues were thrown off where I never really talked to anybody about it because I don't know if they're going to go tell somebody else about it. And
Mm,
especially when because kids are so mean.
they are. They are. They are. And that's a very good thing that you brought up because finding the right fit for a client and a therapist relationship is very, very important. You got to make sure that it's the right fit because everybody is not a right fit for you.
Yep.
It
And I had been referred to two therapists. And after going a few times, like one, I just felt like she took 30 minutes to note everything, while the other 30 minutes was a blank stare and maybe reading off what questions to ask me and doing breathing technique. I just never connected.
Yeah.
I could never connect, like, to even get down to where my issues were coming from.
Mhm. Yeah. And she probably just only hit the surface. And then again, she probably wasn't trained in what you needed. What you needed was
Right.
someone who knew how to really dig deep and get to
And
the
it's so hard through medical stuff with all this stuff because it's like, when do they discover what you need? Because it's like until I hit 42, they had never discovered I need a trauma therapy or that I was potential bipolar
Mhm.
from my actions. My actions had proved it on and off all along.
Mhm. Yeah, and a lot of times people don't like to refer. They don't let me refer you off to somebody else because I know I'm not what you need. And people have a real pride issue with that. I find that I wanted us to touch a little bit on before we go. We're not going to be on much longer, but I want us to touch um on I'm gonna say religion. I think I have my own takes as a pastor. I pastor and shepherd the people from a whole different viewpoint from what I was used to when I was shepherded because I have my clinical, I'm a counselor, but I'm also a pastor. So I believe in holistic healing. And so I'm always digging into the humanity of a person before we even dive into the spiritual aspect. So have you been told or thrown at, hey, just pray about it?
Yeah. And I do believe in a higher power. I do believe in God. I do believe in a higher power. Um, I know He answers prayers. I know He answers them in His time, whether you want to believe it or not.
Mhm.
But when you're going through something like that, it's so hard to put all your faith in something when you just need relief and you're not getting it.
Right. And
Um,
go ahead.
but I had some things that has set me away from being real spiritual, like
Mhm,
church wise, religious family wise, like things that's went on in my family with some religious things.
mhm,
Church, like the hypocritical. I don't like the big sanctuaries of uh, a lot of. It looks like a lot of money's floating around to make the church go about. I,
mhm,
been judge like they say they don't judge, but they really do.
mhm.
I just I don't know. It's been hard for me
Yeah,
with that,
yeah.
but I do pray. I pray. I do believe in a higher power. I'm not. I do believe in a God and stuff, but it's just been hard for me to reach out with church and stuff like that
Mhm. I
for
believe,
things experienced in my own life.
yeah, I believe for so many years, churches have tried to be something to people that they couldn't because, for one, God made physicians. And so everything, prayer, yes, but there's appeal, there's a counselor. And that's what a lot of times people are needing, and you're not referring them to who they need. And
Right.
so because of that, there have been a lot of times people have throughout, and I know from old times, long, people have been told that you're not praying enough. And it's like, no, that's not the answer. Because if somebody has a chemical imbalance, that's what it is. It's a chemical imbalance. And because they're not getting the help that they need, you're making them feel even badder or worse than what they were feeling before. Because now they're looking at God and saying, "Well, God is not hearing me, or God is not answering me. I'm not good enough. I've heard, God doesn't love me." And going in and having to work with people through these issues of religion, and God is not a God where He is telling you that not to take medicine. Medicine is all right. Speaking to a counselor is all right, and a pastor who doesn't have the clinical training, it's all right for them to say, "Hey, I need to refer you to who does, because I'm only a shepherd, and I don't know what to do for you." So, a lot of times people they get turned off with churches, and they get turned off with God, and just like, I'm done with the whole thing.
No, I know He answers prayer. I do pray for him. Like when I came off all that medicine that I was on, I went through some hardcore withdrawals.
Yeah.
Um, like them 4 days of coming off of that, I didn't know if I was gonna make it.
Mhm.
Like worse than any street drug could ever do to me.
Yeah.
Um, I was on sleeping pills. I was on Xanax. I had slept. That's how I knew. That's how I slept at night for the last years. Last I started praying when I lay down at night. Like, God, please, relax my mind, rest my soul.
Mhm.
I sleep hard with no medicine
Yeah.
within just 30 days. First 10 days, I don't think I ever even slept coming off
Mhm.
that medicine. So I know there is a God, because I have to lay there and say, please rest my mind and my soul.
Yeah.
Let me rest. And I found that to be comforting. Like it did make me sleep. I was like, He is here with me. He is answering prayers, but there's certain things that goes on that I do feel like it's beyond prayer. Like you said, a chemical imbalance. Some
Yeah.
things that like I could pray for it all day long, but if I'm crazy, I'm crazy. I can't do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. But and I always like to tell people there's nothing wrong with you. You are fine. You are still beautiful. You're still good. God created you to be good. It's just that you got something going on in your mind that, this pill or this counselor is gonna help you with. But yeah, I just um from the many people that I've seen over throughout the years, their distaste on what? their experiences have been dealing with religious
My
people.
experience in church has been it would make anyone doubt their, but I also know church is not for the saints, it's for the sinners.
That's right.
But
That's right.
but it is hard to go and it in a church that you just don't feel well. There's a lot of churches out here you don't feel welcome. And then plus with something that has went on, within my a family church, it's made me question. But
Yeah.
no, I definitely believe in a higher power. I definitely know there's a God.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And yeah, and I know you do because we've talked several times about God
it's
and
just getting to where I need to be mentally to
mhm,
get me to where my salvation needs to be, I think,
right,
or
because
where
it's
I need with church wise.
right. And and it's hard if my mind is racing because I have been at a place, especially as a single mom, I've been in a place where I'm really dealing with some hardcore stuff. And I'm like, I need to go pray. But I could not get my mind in a place to even calm down to begin to pray. So
What I what I think back about when I was really in that dark place is I was so exhausted because my mind wouldn't stop.
hmm hmm
Once again, I just wanted to eat pills to make my mind down so I could even rest.
hmm
But I couldn't even get up to take the shower to get ready to get there
yeah.
because my mind.
hmm hmm yeah.
It's like my mind wouldn't stop. Like, but I finally got my mind to stop racing after
Yeah.
I felt like 7 8 months of it racing. It was
Yeah.
like I was in a battle with it,
hmm
and that itself is mentally exhausting.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I tell you this all the time, but I'm very proud of you. And I mean, I know what you just went through and what you just came out of, but I'm very proud of you because I know that you are a what I call a person who just likes to care for people, and so that's what you do. And so I'm proud because I can tell that even though it's almost like baby steps, but you're taking your life back where you're looking and saying, "This is about me. This is about me, and let me care for
I
me."
so many people for so long that I had forgot about myself,
Mhm.
and and then it's like God did snatch it all away. Made me sit down and think, well, you have no choice but to care for yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
And left anymore. You have got to get yourself
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I'm just proud of you. I really am. I really, really
think
am.
not where I want to be, but I feel like I'm headed there. I
Yeah.
feel I feel like I'm going to get there. Like you said, it's baby steps.
Yeah.
I'm
Baby.
not where I was, definitely not where I want to be.
Mhm. And that's the most important part. So what would you tell somebody that that may hear because we're going to be this is going to air on YouTube and Facebook and then we're going to have be on iTunes as well. So what would you how would you encourage somebody that is sitting where you just came from?
Don't wait till it's too late. Just I once again I stopped. I was not caring for myself. I was caring for other issues I had going on in life, trying to deal with them. When the whole time I need to help myself. Um, Everybody kept telling me to slow down. I couldn't slow down because I was so my mind was racing. And I know everybody says I'll be here. I'd rather be here than you do that. But I think when people get to that point, it's not even about who is there. They can't get up to even call. Your mind does not let you even call. It's you're just ready for it to be over.
Mhm.
It's just don't like it's serious. And before you get there, reach out. I was screaming out for so long before I got there. But then after I hit rock bottom, it was like I was done asking. When people don't understand that. When people get there, they don't scream, "I'm going to commit suicide." They don't say, um, "I need help anymore." It's over.
Mhm.
And I think it's big that people educate themselves on. people that are screaming out for it.
Mhm.
Like, just look at them, pray about it. You've got to stop. You got to put this behind. Get yourself up. Get yourself. That'll push somebody either even further because they're going to stop opening up to you. Because no
Mhm.
matter how easy it is for you to say that, it's not that easy for them to get up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, like, I felt like that was a lot of my.
Uh-oh, we've lost her. Hopefully she'll come back. But while we're waiting on her to join us again, I want to um, remind you if you are going through and you feel as though all hope is lost, I want you to take the number that I have across the screen. Those of you who are listening via podcast, the number is 336-902-3202. Don't wait until it's over, until you feel as though you don't have any other options. We are a group of people who understand how and what is needed as far as being present. We understand what it is to come and just sit with you, and to just hear your fears, hear the things that you are actually going through without any judgment. We want to be there for you. We offer support. We're non-judgmental. No, we will not push um, our religion off on you. We will offer you prayer, of course. But we want to let you know that you're not alone and that what you're going through is you're not the first, you won't be the last. And we want to let you know that, there is life after this and that there is help for you. And so, again, please don't feel as though you have to go through this by yourself. We're here for you. We love you with the love of God. We're not judging you. We're not looking at you as though you're less than. We understand life happens. We understand that sometimes we go through things that we don't always understand, and we understand that some of the things that we go through is just not fair. Life happens. We all have went through something these last 2 years. We have had to be isolated. We have had to deal with more deaths than we ever had before. And so we understand. And so again, we want you to know that we're here for you. Don't wait. You don't have to give us your name, but we do want you to know that we are here. The lines will always be open to you. The number is 336-902-3202. Again, we are here for you. It doesn't look like Tanya's going to be able to get back on, but we hope that you enjoyed today's podcast. I was in my heart. I wanted us to really talk about it and dive into it and really talk to someone who has lived through depression and actually going through the act of trying to commit suicide. We thank God that Tanya is still here with us. She's such a sweet soul, and she has a wealth of knowledge and a wealth and a well of wisdom. I believe that will be helpful to anybody that if you would like to talk to her. She is open to talk. And so, again, you can call that number 336-902-3202, and we can connect you to her. Again, we thank you for joining us for another episode of The Healing Place. You can find us here at least once a month, bringing you voices of healing, voices that would take us into issues that many of us deal with, and give us as they give us their story of survival and how they have worked their way through it, or how they are still working their way through it. But again, we thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to any podcast avenues that we have. We are on Apple iTunes. We are on all the major platforms. You can find us there. Again, we thank you. We love you, and we're